As you can see here with Harbor Drive is a front yard. So we are positioning our loading on a front yard. So we are requesting a deviation from that, as well as a deviation for parking within a front yard. There is all of the parking on the eastern is technically within the front yard, which is approximately 75 spaces, and then approximately 39 spaces of the western parking area, as I'm circling here on the screen, is also within the front yard extension line. So we are asking for a deviation for both of these based on the site constraints that we have here with these easements. As written in the redevelopment plan, parking is not permitted in the front yard unless it is for visitor parking, and which it can only be 10% of that. As previously mentioned, we are more than almost 111 spaces, I believe, that are in the front yard. So we are requesting a deviation from that tonight. Quickly running through some of the utilities and
Dan, I'm so sorry. If I could just back you up on one other thing. Am I correct that the applicant is also seeking variance relief to permit the parking of the trailer spaces in the front yard as well, in addition to those loading spaces at the front of the building?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
And additionally, all the utilities for the proposed development are present within Industrial Drive and Harbor Drive, as well as stormwater management. The site has been designed to meet the city and state stormwater management rules. Again, as previously mentioned, the project results in a decrease in impervious surfaces as well as vehicle surfaces. Therefore, we are meeting all of the requirements for the city and state stormwater management rules. A couple of other highlights as part of the proposed application are the landscaping. As you can see here, there was an extensive landscaping design to help clean up the property and really make this application shine. There are approximately over 1,000 new plantings, in addition to 105 shade trees and 188 evergreen trees. With that, there are street trees proposed along Summit Drive, Harbor Drive, and Industrial Drive. All of these street trees meet all the requirements for 40 feet on spacing. I believe there are 17 along Summit, 37 along Harbor, and 13 along Industrial, providing that nice streetscape as part of the city's redevelopment plan. With that said, the project is compliant with the green area ratio standard, where 0.5 is required. As part of these proposed landscape improvements, we are at 0.62 that we are currently proposing. We do have a couple walls and fencing due to the minimum cover over this gas pipeline. The proposed application does require the site to be raised slightly to maintain that consistent cover throughout this gas pipeline. So there are 3 retaining walls being proposed immediately adjacent along the right-of-way line here. There is a gap, a small gap where a retaining wall cannot be proposed, which is within the gas easement. And then again, the wall picks back up and continues down to where it catches grade. This is due to the trailer spaces, as well as along the eastern parking area. There is a slight retaining wall holding back grade to meet the proposed office finished floor elevation. Both of these walls will have the standard fall protection, which results in a 3.5 foot fencing. We are proposing a black chain link fencing on top of that wall for fall protection. That is prohibited within this redevelopment plan. So we are asking for a deviation for that to provide that fall protection on top of that wall. Quickly closing out a couple more items here. Lighting, there are 27 proposed light poles, all at a mounting height of 25 feet, 17 wall mounted lights positioned around the building within the loading docks. Lighting is fully compliant with all the requirements within the redevelopment plan, except one deviation. 1.8 foot candles is proposed at the Industrial Drive driveway, and 1.7 foot candles is proposed at the Harbor Drive driveway. This is an intent to light up that driveway to meet that standard, where 1 foot candle is required at all property lines. So we are asking for a deviation for that. Again, that's only in locations of the driveways. Every other location of the property surrounding all of the adjacent properties are all fully compliant with that 1 foot candle requirement. Trash hauling and recycling pickup. for a typical warehouse development like this is typically handled by a private hauler and would typically be handled by trash compactors that'll usually is operational depending on the tenants. So therefore, we're not showing a trash enclosure, but trash would be picked up by a private hauler and located within one or two of the loading dock stalls. To close out, there are a couple other variances or deviations that we are requesting with respect to signage. We are proposing 2 monument signs, one for each roadway frontage, excuse me. It is shown right here at the entrance driveway of Industrial Drive, as well as one on the Harbor Drive entranceway, this rectangular box here. There is only 1 sign permitted per building. We are requesting 2 based upon the 2 roadways. So therefore, we are asking for a deviation there. The sign area is at just under 55 square feet, 54.75 to be exact per plan, where 20 square feet is the requirement. This is in nature with majority of the signs that are in this neighborhood, and I believe the planner will further speak to that, but I did want to highlight that. And then the sign heights for these are just under 8 feet, 7.9 to be exact, where 4 feet above grade is permitted. Again, similar in nature to some of the signs that we've noticed in and around this redevelopment plan area. Sign setbacks are fully compliant with the 15-foot setback from the property line. Additionally, there is a few wall facade signage that is proposed. The architect will further speak to about that. I believe there's 1 address sign and 2 tenant signs that are further proposed. And I think that concludes my direct testimony. If there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Dan, I did have 1 or 2 quick questions for you. Have you had an opportunity to review the comment letter issued by the Department of Engineering, I believe on February 3rd, 2023?
I have, yes.
And does the applicant have any issues addressing the items set forth in that letter?
I'm sorry, this was the engineering letter?
This is the engineering letter, correct?
Yeah, there was one condition, I believe it was item number 7, if I recall, which is respect to the slope of the driveway. After discussions with the city engineering department, believe this was a misinterpretation of the plans. This has been further addressed to where this comment is no longer applicable.
Okay, perfect. So with regard to the use of that Harbor Drive driveway by passenger vehicles only, that's no longer an issue for engineering, and both trucks and cars can use that.
Correct.
Okay, and have you had an opportunity to review the comment letter issued by the Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority?
Yes, we have, and we take no exceptions to working with them on those.
Okay, thank you. And the staff report issued by city planning. Have you had an opportunity to review that as well?
I have, and we take no issues with complying with all of those conditions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I have no further questions for Mr. Reeves.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reeves. Very detailed testimony. I have no questions. Anybody else?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to begin with our next witness, Rihanna Kirchhoff of Dolan and Dean, our traffic engineer. I believe she's been promoted.
Yep. Hi, Rihanna. I'll just swear you in if you can raise your right hand. Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, could you please state and spell your name?
Rihanna Kirchhoff, Kirchhoff.
Thank you.
Ms. Kirchhoff, good evening. I don't believe we've qualified you in the past, have we?
I think it was last year was my first and last time in front of this board.
Okay, and your license is current tonight still?
Yes, it is.
Great, thanks. You're qualified then.
Okay, great.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Ms. Kirchhoff, did you prepare the traffic impact study last revised August 31st, 2022 that was filed with the board in connection with this application?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And can you please explain to the board your analysis and your conclusions as set forth in that report?
Absolutely. So as part of our engagement with the applicant, the purpose of our study was to assess the traffic generation associated with the proposed warehouse, as well as investigate any impacts on the adjacent roadway network, the adequacy of the proposed parking, and the sufficiency of the design for the proposed driveways. Standard Tenny traffic study, we collected traffic counts at the intersections of Harbor Drive and Route 440, Harbor Drive and Industrial Drive, as well as Port Jersey Boulevard and Chosin Few Way. We did those counts in July of 2022 during standard AM and PM peak hours. Our next step in our traffic study was to project the number of trips that would be generated by the proposed warehouse. And we did that using the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, using the most recent edition, which is the 11th edition. The data is compiled based off of real sites across the country. So based on this particular size building, it's anticipated that the morning peak hour would have 72 trips generated by the proposed warehouse. And during the evening peak hour, it would be 75 trips. From a traffic engineering standpoint, these volumes aren't considered significant, and that significant threshold is defined by ITE and NJDOT as 100 or more peak hour trips. So we fall below that threshold. Our traffic study also includes a level of service analysis of the future build out to determine the impact on the proposed driveways as well as the adjacent intersections. A level of service is a qualitative measure of the operating conditions of a roadway, ranges from A to F, A being the best. So the results of the analysis show that the movements at these study intersections operate favorably at level of service C or better, with and without the proposed development, and that the proposed the traffic generated by the proposed warehouse would account for approximately 2.5 seconds of an increase in delay, which is a negligible impact. The driveways are calculated to operate at level of service B or better during the peak hours. So the analysis demonstrates that the proposed development would not have an impact on the adjacent roadway network, and the roadways would continue to operate at adequate capacity. Given the site's location, we don't anticipate that there's going to be a travel path for school children, any significant pedestrian activity or bike activity. The site is well suited for an industrial use from a traffic engineering perspective. The design complies with the city's Vision Zero plan, and the ingress and egress driveways and aisle widths, as testified by Mr. Reeves, promotes safe and efficient access for passenger vehicles as well as tractor trailers with reasonable and prudent driver behavior. But that's all I have for direct. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I have no questions for Ms. Kirchhoff.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it. I have no questions either. Anybody else?
No.
Okay,
we'd
thank
like-
you, Ms. Kirchhoff.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to keep moving as quickly as we can. Our next witness is our architect, Federico Chiappina of McGregor Associates. I'm not sure I see him having been promoted. If someone could just check, Federico, potentially, if you could raise your hand so they can find you more easily. There we go. Thank you.
Hi, Federico. Let me just swear you in if you can raise your right hand. You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, could you please state and spell your name?
Federico Chiappina, Federico Chiappina.
Thank you.
Mr. Chiappino, I don't believe we've qualified you in the past, have we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, if you could just give us an idea of your background and your license.
Yes, I'm a professional architect. I got my degree in architecture from Georgia Institute of Technology in Georgia. I have been a licensed architect in 40 states, one of which is New Jersey since 2015, and my license is active and good.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. You're qualified.
Thank you. Mr. Chiappina, did you prepare the plans that were submitted to the board in connection with this application?
Yes, my company did under my supervision.
Perfect. Thank you. So at your direction, if we could just start by walking the board very briefly through the proposed interior floor plan of the warehouse building.
Yes, let me share my screen real quick here. All right, do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
We can, yes.
All right. Okay, so this is a floor plan. Of course, this is a speculative warehouse, which means that is pretty much an empty floor plan at this point. It has two proposed office locations on the southwest and southeast corner. The southern wall is where the loading dock portion of the building is located, and the dock doors. Around the building is basically, personnel doors, man doors for egress and fireman ingress. And there's a few driving doors on the back on the north side of the building. It's
Okay, thank you.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you mentioned it, that office space at both corners of the building, are those proposed to be 3 floors each?
Right.
Okay,
The proposed design includes three stories for each one of these corners, and I'll show some elevations of that.
Yes, if we could move on to the exterior building design and the elevation so the board could.
Okay, I think, yeah. Let me first show. Can you guys see
sure.
the rendering?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is a render. I think this will. I'll give you another exhibit that shows the elevations all around the building, but I think this will kind of give you a better idea of what we're proposing. This is in one of the corner offices or proposed offices, so you can see that we have a kind of a little bit of a better treatment of that corner with some glass and some metal canopies and travertine stone over this particular area on the front. The treatment of the panels is these are all concrete panels with reveals, and the treatment of the parapet height going up and down and projecting in and out of the wall to create some articulation of the elevation, as well as some of the walls on this side of the office projecting forward. So this corner is designed, and both corners are going to be identical design. So there's some bristle layers or the glazing and things of that nature. So it creates a kind of a very nice and modern look to the office component of the building. It continues on with the treatment of the concrete panels along all the walls around the building with again changing colors and changing in the carrying of the reveals up and down the walls using 3 different colors of gray, as well as blue accent colors that are the typical colors for this particular client. So I'm going to show you how this carries all the way across the building by opening my.
Yes, Mr. Chiappino, before you move on from that exhibit, Mr. Lampe, if we could mark that as exhibit, I think that would be a 3, and I can certainly, if the board, if city planning doesn't have it already, I can certainly provide it following the hearing.
Thank you, counsel.
All right, and then moving on to my elevations. As I described before, here's on the top of the sheet, you're gonna see then the north elevation of the building. What we do here is again a very long wall. So what we try to do with this type of long walls is to kind of break up the plane and create projections of the parapets up and down, change the color and the texture, add some of the blue accent color, and kind of repeat that across to kind of break up that long typical warehouse type design, which I think works really well and brings it out to a different type of scale. This particular drawing doesn't show it, but we are going to propose to use this same type of articulation along the front wall where the loading dock is. So we plan to incorporate some of these elements that you see right here along the wall that has the dock doors. So it will create a little bit better rendering of that whole wall. Along the front end side of the building on the south wall, what we have is, of course, our dock doors. We have clerestory windows above. And then we have our panels again, all the way across with the accent panels that I spoke earlier. On both corners, we're gonna have the office kind of design, which I described in the rendering, or in the 3D rendering. So one thing to note along here is the location of our signage. So what we have is a address sign located here. I have the square footages for those. Give me 1 second and I'll tell you. The address sign is 22 square feet, which is located up here, up on the wall. And the tenant signage is going to be located right above the glazing right here. And that is 86 square feet each. The total square footage of the sign is 194 square feet, which is well within the requirements.
The requirement that the sign area shall not exceed the equivalent of 5% of the first story portion of the wall to which it's attached. Is that what you're referring to?
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you. And just if we could very briefly, thank you for walking the board through the exterior. The building is solar ready, is that correct?
That is correct. We have designed this structure of the roof to support solar panels in the future.
Okay, got it. And then just lastly, if you could very quickly address compliance with the design standards set forth in the applicable redevelopment plan.
Yeah, the proposed design complies with the requirements by again creating using different types of materials. So the application of materials, changes of colors, texture, and again projecting the planes to break up the long single planes of walls, projecting panels in and out, overlapping panels, and creating the different heights of parapets, as you can see on the screen.
Okay, thank you. And will all major mechanical equipment also be screens consistent with those requirements?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any mechanical equipment that is closer to the edges, it will be screened by the parapets.
Thank you. I have no further questions from Mr. Chipina.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have no questions either. Anybody else?
No.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the board indulging us. We're ready to move on to our final witness, our professional planner, Paul Phillips. I don't see him having been promoted. So Paul, if you could raise your hand so the board can find you and elevate you. Perfect.
Hi, Paul. Let me just swear you in. Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, can you please state and spell your name?
Paul Phillips, Phillips.
Thank you.
Mr. Phillips, good evening. I think we've qualified you. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think the last time, Mr. Chairman, was about a year ago, and my license, my professional planner's license is in good standing.
Okay, great. Thank you. You're qualified.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Before we get started, can you just explain to the board briefly what you did in anticipation of your testimony this evening?
Sure, I inspected the property, surveyed adjacent uses, reviewed the plans, reviewed the Greenville Industrial Redevelopment Plan, the city's master plan, and also the staff reports.
Perfect, thank you. And if you could just summarize very briefly the variance relief being requested this evening.
Yeah, so the use, as you've heard, is permitted per the redevelopment plan. There are several deviations that are being requested. They're namely for parking spaces located in front of the building, for trailer parking located in front of the building, for the off-street loading within the front yard, the height and area of the ground signs, and for the chain link fencing facing a public street. In terms of the planning rationale for the deviations, the first one that I'll discuss is for the off-street loading within the front yard, as well as the associated trailer parking located in front of the building. So as you've heard from the site engineer, pretty much the driving force behind the overall site design relates to the fact that the property is encumbered by the high pressure gas main and the associated easement, which traverses the front portion of the site. Obviously, you cannot construct a building atop the easement. I would also note that the site, if you take a good look at it, has significantly more frontage along Harbor Drive than it has depth. So it becomes somewhat problematic to place the building behind the easement and also locate the loading and the trailer parking to the rear. And lastly, you do have a site that has multiple frontages. So I think given these site conditions, I think the applicant has actually appropriately located the building behind the easement so that the loading and trailer parking is then sort of necessarily within the front yard of Harbor Drive. And I really don't see this as problematic, especially given the built context in the immediate area and the larger district where front yard loading and trailer parking is pretty much the norm, not only along Harbor Drive and Industrial Drive, but also other streets within the district nearby. And the other mitigating factor is, like, unlike some of these existing sites, the applicant, as you heard, is installing a landscape screening along Harbor Drive to mitigate sort of any undue visual impacts associated with the relief. With regard to the deviation for parking in front of the building, again, there are multiple yards to contend with. Additionally, I think you really want to have the employee and visitor parking near the office areas at either end of the building, and you want that parking to be separate from the truck, trailer loading and parking areas. So the result is you do have a technical variance for parking in front of the building along the Industrial Drive frontage, as well as a number of spaces at the other end of the building. Although not directly in front of the building, it's I think the mitigating factor here is those spaces on Harbor Drive at the portion of the site closest to Route 440 are really part of an appendage, if you will. And I think the front yard parking directly across the street along Harbor Drive west of Industrial Drive is also a mitigating factor, because that really is the neighborhood context. And also, as I mentioned, there will be screening that will be help to shield this parking from the public view shed. I actually see these variances as a combination of C1 and C2. With regard to the former, I make that proffer, recognizing the property's physical characteristics and encumbrances that would include the easement, the relatively shallowness of the lot and the multiple frontages. And with regard to C2 criteria, clearly this applicant is vastly improving the existing site conditions, which consist of basically unimproved, unpaved areas for parking and storage across the entire site, other than the 3 small building footprints, no landscaping. In fact, the existing loading along Harbor Drive is not adequate, and you actually have trailers and shipping containers extending into the front yard. Clearly, there are a number of goals in the Greenville Industrial Redevelopment Plan, which these variances would support, eliminating deteriorated and obsolete structures, improving the physical and functional layout of the project area, promoting economic redevelopment, and providing site improvements for the beautification of the project area. I think 3 purposes of the municipal land use statute would be advanced. They would be purposes A, G, and I. And again, given the adjacent development and the mitigating measures, mostly in terms of the landscaping, I see no significant detriment to the public good or the redevelopment plan if these variances are granted. Briefly, the 2 ground signs, quite simply, one is permitted per the redevelopment plan. The applicant is looking to have a ground sign at each of the access points near the entrances, the office entrances at either side of the building. I don't see this as an unreasonable request, given the size of the building, the multiple frontage and access points, and particularly if there are 2 tenants, for example. Also, in terms of the height and area, which were mentioned by our engineer, were slightly in excess of both. I don't think what's proposed is egregious considering the scale of development and also looking at comparable signage within the district for some of the more recent vintage warehouse distribution facilities. It appears to be well in line with what's been approved and built. And then lastly is the chain link fencing. As you heard, it's prohibited along a public street. 3.5 foot high black vinyl chain link fencing is proposed atop the retaining wall along portions of both streets. And this is really being installed for safety reasons. You heard fall protection, given that there is a drop off from that retaining wall down to the public street. So I would see this also as a C2 variance. And Lauren, I think that concludes my testimony on all the variances.
Yeah, just to confirm with regard to those last three variances, again, you indicated the C2 criteria. Are the positive criteria goals of the redevelopment plan and MLUL the same for these variances as well?
Yeah, I think they're the same of the four goals with regard to the redevelopment plan I cited, and the same three MLUL goals would be advanced.
Perfect. I understand. And then with regard to negative criteria for those as well, and all the variances, in your professional opinion, by granting this relief, would there be any substantial detriment to the public good, zone plan, redevelopment plan, or zoning ordinance?
I see no substantial detriment for the reasons articulated to either the public good, given again the neighborhood character, as well as the redevelopment plan itself, given the particular circumstances related to this property.
Thank you. I have no further questions for Mr. Phillips.
All right, thank you, Mr. Phillips. I have no questions either. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council, is that your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. So at this time, let's open it up for public comment. Anybody from public, if you'd like to comment on this application, please raise your hand. If you're calling, press *9 to raise your hand.
Sorry to have interrupted you.
That's okay.
That being said, my apologies, and seeing no one from the public wishing to speak, I move to close.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. Tim, this is yours. Thanks.
Yeah, planning feels we are completely in agreement with the testimony of Mr. Phillips. I think he gave a very detailed, articulate description of a lot of the things that I would have said in my staff report, which I did, but planning is very happy with the landscaping that was proposed in the site. We felt that that overall, this is almost like such an exemplary view of what should be in this area of the city and this redevelopment plan. And I felt that a lot of the deviations that were needed were very minor and de minimis, considering the location of the site, the fact that the easement that was in the site was where it was, created a definite hardship on the site. And I feel overall that the applicant has done everything possible to mitigate those issues with the easement, and planning is very happy to see this application hopefully move forward, given the board's vote.
All right, thanks, Tim. We appreciate it.
Here, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P22-159 is presented to the board tonight.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded for approval.
Vice Chair, Dr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Torres,
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky,
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that council, you and your team did an excellent job presenting a great project, and I wholeheartedly vote aye.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Commissioner Cruz,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Ganganan,
I just want to thank the team for such a great presentation. I vote aye.
Commissioner Cruz,
To vote aye.
Commissioner Dr. Desai,
I vote aye.
and Chairman Langston.
Did we get everybody? We got
Did I do
David
Cruz twice
there.
by mistake?
Commissioner Green.
Yeah, I got 2 votes.
Commissioner Green.
All right, there you go.
Just
I
like
want to
Special.
recount.
Recount.
This is Hudson County. Come on.
I don't even once.
you can vote only once.
Okay, so we're on.
Green, I'm sorry.
I vote aye.
Yes, Commissioner Green.
Okay, and I agree with everybody else. Great presentation by the team, council, great job. And yeah, I don't think there's any detriment to the master plan, zone plan. And I think it definitely promotes the goals and objectives of the master plan for an industrial use. And I'm gonna vote aye.
All in favor, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and indulging us up until 10:30. Much
Thank you,
appreciated.
council.
Thank
That's
you.
what we do.
It's an early
right.
evening. Good luck.
Thank you. Take
All
care.
right, so I'm assuming we still have Tom Lean here? Or do we not?
No,
We had his I don't know.
no,
can
we have no Tom Lean and Frank.
Okay,
I forget
so
his
they
last
both,
name are no longer here. Is no longer here either.
okay, so they both stated before on the record that after 10 o'clock, we could carry their cases. So let's call case P22-201 is a preliminary and final major site plan amendment for 179 Academy Street. Let's carry that to April 4th with preservation of notice. And item 17, case P22-205 is a conditional use for 36 Congress Street. We're going to carry that to a date of April 4th with preservation of notice. And with that being said, I think we're going to move on to memorialization of resolutions.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve, memorialize the following resolutions. Number 1 is the resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City. The applicant is Route 440 Developers LLC for preliminary and final major subdivision and preliminary major subdivision and preliminary and final major site plan. This is at 80 Water Street, Jersey City, New Jersey, block 21701, lots 1, 13, 14, 17, 24, and 25, case number P21-007. Next resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City. The applicant is Homestead Assemblage LLC for preliminary and final major site plan approval. Homestead Place Extension Improvements at 697 Newark Ave, 30 Cottage Street, 35 Cottage Street, 26 Van Ripen Avenue, 9 Homestead Place, the Homestead Place right-of-way, Jersey City, New Jersey, block 7902, lots 27 and 45, block 7903, lots 19 and 38.01, block 7904, lot 1, block 7905, lot 20.01, and the Homestead Place right-of-way. Case number on this was P22-212. Resolution number 3 is of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City approving a minor site plan, case number P23-030, submitted by Dish Wireless LLC at 4060 Grant Street, block 13801, lot 6. Fourth resolution is a resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City. The applicant is Cushmark Jersey LLC for conditional use approval for a Class 5 cannabis use at 1521 John F. Kennedy Boulevard, Jersey City, New Jersey, block 29101, lot 17, case number P22-134. And the final resolution I have is of the City of Jersey City Planning Board, application for a proposed Class 5 cannabis retail microbusiness at an existing commercial space and storefront renovation work, case number P23-023. Applicant Canna Boutique by Greenhouse LLC, address 125 Christopher Columbus Drive, Jersey City, New Jersey, block 12901, lot 4.
All right, do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for memorialization. Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Dr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Torres. Can't hear you, Mr. Torres.
You're on mute, Eddie.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Gangadin,
aye.
Commissioner Lipsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Desai,
Aye.
Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Executive session, anybody?
No.
No,
Everything's great.
No.
No.
Guys want to hang out next week?
Yeah.
Meeting, oof.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion
moved.
to adjourn this august meeting.
Second it.
All right, motion made and seconded. I'm gonna go look up August, and
August, yeah.
August.
State one.
Okay,
Steam.
I'm gonna go look it up and have a good night, guys.
good night.
Good night, everyone.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.